Hello everyone out there in YouTube land. I have a project I want to tell you about today. I made this segmented bowl with a lid, and I want to show you how I did it. Let's get started. I used the segmented project planner for this bowl, and I'll leave a link below for those interested in this software. For my first bowl project, I decided to use a pre-designed project from the Segmented Project Planner website. I then duplicated rings 2 and 3, flipped them over to create the rounded top for my lidded bowl. The software will provide exact length and width needed for each segment. I added 4 to 6 inches to the length of each piece and will explain why later. I decided to use 3/4 inch Baltic plywood for 3 of the segments and white pine for the other 3. We'll hold it tight, start the saw, cut number 1. Number 2. It also helps. Now I got a squiggly line on that too. And I'm going to always have that squiggly line on top. You'll see people turning over and they'll turn it over to this side. I don't know how that works. Main thing, the point of your angle touching this face every time. And every time keep this squiggly line up, and then you can't go wrong. That's 4. 5. I used Jerry Bennett's segmentology videos to build my jig. I'll leave a link below if you're interested in building one for yourself. So just from the length of this piece, I know that I have 12 segments because I cut my piece to only 4 inches longer than what the program calls for. But we'll try that now as the saw blade is stopped. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I didn't even have to count them because this part here, 4 inches of scrap left over, and we can just throw it in the trash pile. As I fit my segments together, we place them so every other one has a squiggly line up. After dry fitting and gluing, it was time to hold them all together with a hose clamp. I used my 15-degree wedgie cut with my Gatton CNC to to get the 12 segments with perfectly fitting angles. Now it's time to set up my wedgie sled, cut up and glue the remaining 5 rings. Here you can see why I added 6 inches to each length. I found this necessary to safely hold while cutting the finished segment. After allowing sufficient time for the glue to dry, it was time to finally get them unclamped. Next, after figuring out how I wanted them stacked, I carefully sanded each side, then glued and stacked them again. I used my pressure pot for a hold-down weight and allowed them to dry overnight. I placed a piece of 2 by 6 inch cherry in my chuck, got it rounded in paste, glued my segmented rings to its base, and got it turning. Now it's time to stop and do a little CA glue and sawdust repair. Now with just a touch of scraping and a little sandpaper, I'll be ready for a little finishing. After some preliminary finishing on the outside, I'm ready to go after the interior of my bowl. And voila, we break into the inside of the bowl. Time again for a little CA glue and sawdust repair. Now I do just a tad of scraping on the edge. Then I do some final sanding on the edge. I go from 150 to 400. Then, after a little examination, I was ready to apply some of my own brand polishing compound. Finally, it's time to cut it loose. Now it's time to make us a lid. I first cut out some circles on a bandsaw, or almost circles. Now I sanded it flat, glued it up, and waited. Now I put it between the centers, cut me a tenon, and got it in a chuck. It was about time to start fitting the lid to the bowl. Now I'll drill a small hole in the center to attach a decorative little knob a little later. Now I'll sand from 150 through 400 and start applying the finish. Now it's cut-off time again. Now here I am doing a little sanding. I go again from 150 to 400. Time for that super wax finish again. It looks like cutoff time again. Now let's just get this attached to the top and see what it looks like. After attaching that thingamajig to the lid, here's what the final product looked like. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, I would like you to subscribe to my channel. Now, as I always like to say, I'll see you in the next video.